Hello and welcome to another episode of the Shout at the Oval podcast. It's the first player of the season that I have had in on the podcast, and I am delighted to have with us our new goalkeeper. It's Dan Gyollai. You can keep me right with that, Daniel. I know that we were just having the discussion off air and everyone calls him Dan the goalie. So,
yep.
First of all, welcome to the podcast and welcome to Glentoran. It's absolutely brilliant to have you here.
No, thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
You've made a brilliant impression so far, and we'll get down to your time at the Glen certainly, but the way I always start all my podcasts is way back at the start. Growing up, you obviously come from Hungary. What's your sort of first memories of football?
So it's a funny story that my dad tells me all the time, but it was even before I had a memory. My mum was watching my dad's football game. He played just for fun with his mates on the weekend, and he was also a goalkeeper. And at one of the games, my mum was there, and she was pregnant with me, and she got hit in the stomach by a football. So that could be my first football-related memory. That's what he says. He says you've been infected with football there and then, and from then on, it was just football. I was probably, I'd say, about 4 to 5 years old when I started going to, evening sessions at my school. The PE teacher there was just saying, look, why don't you just come down and try it? And I just enjoyed it. It was something to do with loads of my friends, and then it transitioned to going to evening sessions at the local football club in my hometown, and made friends with everyone. So it was something to do with all the boys, as well as I really enjoyed playing football. But there was a decision to be made quite early on. I was always quite tall, and at about 7, 8, I think it was, I just had these growth spurts, and I just got so big and so lanky that I ended up basically kicking everyone before I even got to the ball. Or the ball was there, and by the time I swung my leg, I was just booting kids' ankles. So I had to make a decision whether to pack it in and try something else or try a different position. And then that's kind of how the goalkeeping came around. I was tall, I was big. My dad used to be a goalkeeper, so I thought, I'll give it a try.
So when you were growing up in Hungary, was it always the ambition to play in England? Is that the sort of ambition of because in Northern Ireland, young players want to, they say, go across the water, so they want to go and play in England or Scotland. What's the ambition of a young Hungarian kid playing football?
To be fair, for me, even to think about the fact that I have played in England is still so far-fetched that if you told me 15 years ago, I would have told you were lying. I just wanted to play football, and it's actually funny you say that because my mum wrote it on a piece of paper. She said, look, you're 10 years old, let's put something in an envelope, give me your goals, we'll write it down, and we'll check in 10, 15 or 20 years, depending on what you think. And I had it written down in an envelope to say, I want to play European football, I want to win, I want to win a European trophy, and I want to win the World Cup with Hungary. So for me, England was a dream. Spain would have been a dream. Italy was a dream. But when you look at football, I think England is a dream for everyone. That's the biggest, the most broadcasted, the most famous, the biggest league in the world for me. So I remember watching Liverpool games, Chelsea games, Arsenal games, Man United games, and that's what I grew up on. But I never ever dared to think that I would be anywhere near those games ever in my life.
You were 16 when you got the move to England, and that's a huge move for a young 16-year-old going to a foreign country. Was it a big decision at the time to make that leap and join Stoke?
It was. My family took, I think it was about half a year for us to decide how and what to do. Actually, closer to 8 months. So at 13, I moved away from my hometown to Budapest to play at an academy. I was there for about a year and a half. Really enjoyed it, but that was my first taste of going away from home. That was a 2.5 hour train journey plus an hour of tubes, trains, trams to get to my building where I was staying, and at 13 to be chucked into the capital, to travel on your own, to navigate your own way around Budapest, which is, I think it's 1.5 million people living there. Back in my hometown, I think we got 60,000. So you can imagine the culture shock that was. So that was already a big move for me. So that, in a way, prepared me. My parents, I have to thank everything, you know, because without my parents, I would be nowhere. And they've prepared me. They've set me up with the right skills, the right attitude to kind of look after myself, and to then get the opportunity to move here. It was, footballing wise, it was a no-brainer. I said straight away, if there's an opportunity, I want to go. And it was more so just trying to decide whether my mum was going to move with me, my dad, what is my dad going to do, because he's got his own private company, he was driving lorries, so logistically it was a big decision. But then in the end, my mum decided, look, you're 16, you can speak the language a little bit. If I move out with you, you know, I'll just be babying you around, you'll rely on me all the time. Whereas at Stoke we had digs, so we had host families look after us. She said, look, you'll have a family here, you'll have cooked food for you every night. She will look after you every single day better than I could, because she knows how everything works in England. The club were brilliant, and after about a week or so, I think my mum came back and said, look, you'll be better off without me, in a way, which was really hard for her and for me as well. And at the time, I didn't understand the meaning of that just yet. But yeah, it was a massive, massive decision. But footballing wise, I think it was always what I wanted to do.
So you moved to England, and you said you only spoke a little bit of the language. So that's I mean, speaking to you now, it's crazy, because you basically got an English accent.
Yeah.
So how did you pick it up?
So I was lucky enough that the club had a really close partnership with the school in Stoke, and what they basically did was, all the boys that have come over young, we just got put straight into year 11. So at the time, I had just finished my studies at home, would have been going to the equivalent of college here, but I've almost got moved back a year to go to year 11 to then finish all my studies and have my GCSEs.
Right, okay. So
we had I had the chance to pick some of my subjects, because, for example, I loved history. I was an A-star student back at home for 8 years straight. So all that stuff I knew, but what they said to me was, look, what we need to do is get you GCSEs. So we need to pick these subjects that you will be able to do in 1 year. Because a lot of history, for example, all the coursework I would have never caught up on.
Yeah.
So I had to pick the right ones. Basically, I ended up getting travel and tourism, which I could do in a year. I've got my BTEC Sport, I've got my IT qualifications, because I've done those at home. I've got like a high-level IT qualification that was at the time European certified, so I didn't have to do any IT lessons. I just got the grades straight away. I've got my science grades, and basically we got an intense English course. So what happened was, we went in, and instead of having 6 or 7 lessons, some of those being PE, literature, some of those being science, we just had science, English and maths. And out of the 7, probably 3 or 4 was English. So we just got put in a room. It was me and 2 other players. One of them was German, one of them was Polish. And us 3 sat in a room with this lady who just tutored us 24/7, basically. So in a year, I got basically we got a little sidetrack. Got a lot done and picked up an English accent along the way.
And what was it like then, living with the family in Stoke? What were they like, and what was that like, sort of growing up in those key teenage years with a family that wasn't your own?
It was surreal in a way, but I was really fortunate to have a really, really good family. They looked after us. It was me and the German player who we lived together in the same family. We basically shared our time 24/7 in each other's room. And again, that also helped me with my English, because he was German, I was Hungarian, didn't speak each other's languages, so the only way we could converse was English. So being there, having him there, he was almost like my brother without having an actual brother. And the family just, don't know if they did it on purpose or if they had any practice with this before, but they just found the right balance of parenting us, but not trying to overtake our own parents in parenting. So at 16, you already have your values and your morals kind of instilled, and they just did a great job of keeping us on the ground, make sure, we're following the right things, doing the right things. Looked after us in terms of teaching us how to cook. I loved cooking before that, but they taught us how to cook. They taught us how to go to the shop and buy the right things, look out for sales, what to get, what sort of meals to make for us. The same at the club. The club did cooking lessons for us. So all this just helped kind of raising us into young men. And the family, the club, and my good friend who we lived together, I feel like this was a really, really great way of integrating us into the culture, also setting us up to be able to look after ourselves.
It sounds like Stoke was a great place then, a great grounding for a young player, and that was probably the case for yourself as well. They had some really quite famous goalkeeping talent at the club. Shay Given would have been at the club whenever you joined. Would they have had Jack Butland?
Jack Butland, yes, unbelievable. Asmir Begovic, Thomas Sorensen, unbelievable people, players, goalkeepers. Just being able to be around that team, train with them, try and look at what they do, how they do things, and learn from that, and pick up little bits that could help my game. Certainly Asmir, who I still am in contact with to this day. He'll text me if he's seen my games, like last week at Blanc. Sometimes he's able to catch up on it on the BBC and text me and say, "Oh, well done." He can also offer me advice at the same time. He'll say, "Look, maybe on that goal or on that shot or that save, maybe do this, try this, maybe tweak a little bit here and there." So I've had, honestly, I can never emphasize how lucky I was to have that. I feel like what Stoke was a really, really good club with a really great academy, good people at the club, and almost not too big of a club yet, like a Chelsea or a Man United where they just have money to throw around at players. Stoke was a well-run club, never in debt, but never spending stupid amounts either. So there was always an emphasis on bringing talent through and trying to give everyone a chance and make sure that everyone gets a good upbringing and a good footballing background at the club.
You got your first taste really of first team football then when you went on loan to Northern Premier League side at Nantwich Town, is that right?
Yeah, that's it.
What was it like when they came in sort of for you to bring you on loan? Was there any hesitation in your part? Did you think, you're moving from such a big club like Stoke, or were you just keen just to go and play?
To be honest with you, it was never even an option. I got told I was going there, and that's the best thing that happened to me at that time. I was 17, just nearly turning 18 at the time. And the goalkeeper coach that looked after me before I even signed was the one who said, "Look, this is going to be a great opportunity for you. You need to go and play. You need to experience men's football. You're 17, but you're 6'5", so just go and knock some people around." And that was my Stoke City goalkeeper coach at the time, Daniel Gyollai, who's at Leicester now with Cooper. And for me, he is like my second dad. I've always said that without him, I probably wouldn't be in England, for one, and for two, I wouldn't be where I am right now. I came into the club at 16. He's been my coach all the way to through the 23s. Probably worked with him 2013 to about 2019, so about 6 years. He came to me nearly on my first day and said, "Look, I know your family's not here. I know you'll be lonely sometimes. You'll feel sad sometimes. You won't feel great sometimes. You'll have a bad night's sleep. You'll miss them. You might cry yourself to sleep one night. But I'll be your second that you need to tell me." So from early on, I had that relationship and that trust with him, that I knew everything he was doing was for my benefit, because every time he said he was going to do something, it happened and it worked, and it improved me as a goalkeeper and as a person. And it was actually April, my birthday month, and he just came to me and said, "Look, I spoke to the manager. I know the manager really well, Phil Parkinson, who's at Old Trinkham now. Just said, look, I know him really well. He's a really great guy. He needs a goalkeeper. I think you need to go there and play because it'll be really good for you." So I think it was a Tuesday, and he just said, "Look, it's going to be 12 games in a month. You're going to play Saturday. You're going to play, I think it was Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. and that was for 4 weeks straight. So I played 12 games in that time, gone in there, experienced men's football, and it's the best thing I've done at that age. And once again, had I not had that trust with him, I don't know if I would have hesitated. I would have said, no, I don't want to do that.
So then at the end of the 2018-19 season, you were released from Stoke.
Yeah.
Did you know that was coming? Was that a disappointing conversation? How did you feel around that time?
To be fair, I was lucky because I had the option of staying. I was turning 22. I had spoke to Andy Quay, the goalkeeper coach, the first team goalkeeper coach, and he said to me, look, I want to keep you. I want you around the club because through his words, he said, you're a good guy, you're a good goalkeeper, and I really want you to be around the first team. I was 22, so I didn't want to be around the academy anymore, and he knew that. He said, look, I want you around the first team, but what I will say is you will be a number 3/4. You won't be allowed on loan, and you're going to be training and travelling with us when we need you. And at 22, I felt, I need to go and play. I need to fight for my place. Kind of being told that, yes, you can stay, but you will be a training goalkeeper at 22, I felt was not the right move to make. Yes, I would have earned good money. Yes, I would have been around the championship for a few more years, but I felt the next thing for me was a challenge to go and try and force myself into the team to play. And that was around April time. So in that season, I had a few clubs interested. I went on a few trials, which were all positive, and I am pretty sure out of the 4 or 5 clubs that I've gone to, 4 out of the 5 had ended up changing either the manager or the goalkeeper coach. So things have just gone from, yes, really positive, give us your agent's number, we'll get in contact, to 2 weeks of radio silence. And then when I checked, I thought, something's not right here. Manager left with mutual consent. Goalkeeper coach has parted ways with the team. He'll be looking for new opportunities. So when I saw that, I thought, oh, brilliant, it's my luck. And then I had Peterborough at the time who have come back and said, we really want you. And then in the summer, they've ended up signing a new goalkeeper, so that went out the window. And also in June, when my contract expired, I parted ways with my agent, ended up signing with a new agency, and through them is when Wigan Athletic came up as an opportunity. And to me, I was considered as a first team goalkeeper, not as an academy goalkeeper like I was at Stoke. The goalkeeper coach was Nick Colgan. Just said to me, look, come in, we'll have a look at you for a few days and we'll tell you what we think. And that's what happened. I went in on a Thursday, trained Thursday, Friday, played against Macclesfield in a friendly on Saturday, and he sat me down and said, look, really like the look of you, we want to sign you. And sat down with Paul Cook, the manager. He said straight away, look, I like your stature, you're a good guy. And Nick said, you're great around the group, and I like what you do in goal, so we want to keep you. So that's how I ended up at Wigan. So in a way, it was disappointing to be thought of as a training goalkeeper, but at the same time, they had Jack Butland, they had, I think it was Jakob Haggard at the time, and they had signed Joe Bursick, a young goalkeeper who's won I think it was the Under-17s World Cup with England a couple of years prior. So I just felt that, I can be around the first team, but it's not going to benefit my career in terms of getting me more experience playing. So in a way it was my decision, but also in a way the writing was on the wall. So yes, disappointing, but I think I made the right decision in trying to pursue football instead of money, if that makes sense.
And at Wigan then, what was your time there like? Because was it a source of frustration because you were training and working hard, not really getting those first team opportunities, or was it just a learning?
I'll be honest, it was one of the best years of football I've had. Gone in there, chucked straight into first team football straight away, training with them every single day, and actually being considered as a first team goalkeeper for the first time, because before I was always looked at Dan, the academy goalkeeper, who's 22 but he's around the first team, whereas at Wigan I was just classed as a first team player. I felt finally part of the team, part of the senior group, great group of players. I could start naming names, and that team, unfortunately what happened the year after with COVID and the administration was really unfortunate, because that year I've learned probably the most I have in a year of football. It just having that constant first team training opportunity, having Nick Colgan always behind me, pushing me in my ear, just telling me, look, extra work, let's do this. And with him, I feel like, again, I've improved so much. And the plan was for me to extend my contract and go out on loan in the summer. And I think the irony, again, is I had the conversation. I think lockdown was announced on a Monday, and the Friday before, we were meant to be playing away. I think it was in Birmingham somewhere. So I packed ready, come in on the Friday, training, travel down to Birmingham. He sat me down after breakfast and said, look, Dan, we like what you've done this year. You've done really well. Paul Cook, the manager's happy with you. The club are happy with you. We're going to extend your contract for another year and look at maybe getting you some game time next season. So I was buzzing, brilliant. March time is probably the earliest I've been told about contract opportunities. So to knowing March that I've got another year possibly was brilliant. Ready to go away to the game, and then we got told, I think at lunchtime, we didn't even get to train. We got told, boys, football's cancelled this weekend. All the league is shutting down. Go home. So we went home. Saturday went by. Sunday went by. Sunday, I think afternoon, we got told, look, tomorrow there's going to be a big announcement. So tomorrow morning, before anything happens, everyone come in, get your gear, get as much gear from the gym if you want, dumbbells, etc. You'll see. Picked up all my kit, went home, turned the TV on, and lockdown got announced. And then didn't know what was going on. Obviously, didn't hear anything about the contract. And then I think it was middle of I think it was the middle of April, end of April, we got told the season's going to restart and we're going to finish the last, I think it was 10 to 12 games. So went back, carried on training, thinking nothing of anything, thought everything's fine. And then I think we played, again, ironically, we played Stoke on a Tuesday night. We beat them, mathematically secured our survival in the Championship. And then Wednesday, day off, we were at home. I've got Sky Sports on, and the big yellow banner comes on saying Wigan Athletic enter into administration. So I'm looking at the team group chat thinking, what's going on? All of a sudden, boys are sending the picture in like, boys, what's going on? And no one knows what's happening. And Sammy Morsey, he was our captain at the time, he said, boys, I'm just speaking to the gaffer. I'll put a message into the group chat in a minute. And about 5 minutes later, this voice note comes through and it literally says, boys, the manager found out last night before the Stoke game that basically there's no more money. The owners have turned around and said, that's it. We're not putting any more, not putting another penny into the club. What you got is what you got. And they've already entered into administration, which was, I think, an automatic 12-point deduction. So we've gone from the high of Tuesday night, everyone's celebrating. We've been on a really good run at that stage, and it got shattered like that. Thursday we came in, meeting with the administrators, trying to find out what's going to happen. On that Friday we were meant to be paid, we didn't get paid. And it just spiraled it's gone from a great year to being told I was going to get an extension, to COVID, to coming back, playing the rest of the games, thinking everything's fine, to getting told the club might be no more in a month's time. And we got told we got just about enough money to finish the season, to put the games on, to travel to the games and pay, ground staff, pay our electricity bill for the stadium, to put the lights on, and just about enough to have security there, just enough to put the games on. And then I think we had the coach company offer to pay to just travel us for free to try and save some money. People basically gave up their wages so that the club would survive. Boys were getting pulled in every single day, being told about offers from clubs, because all of a sudden every club wanted to buy our £2 million players for 50 grand and 100 grand and 200 grand. So that year was a chaos. And then, unfortunately, for me, again, the writing was on the wall. I was a third choice keeper at the time, around the first team, been on the bench quite a few games. But again, I knew if they're going to keep one or two, it's going to be the main keepers that they will need to keep. So again, I was once again in a limbo. So again, started off a great year, had a great year, but the end was just disappointing again.
And then you obviously found yourself a free agent.
Yeah.
So you moved on to, ironically, Peterborough.
Yeah. Who came back from the year before because the interest was still there. Moved to Peterborough, and that was tough. Some to my mistakes, some to what I would say a bit of dishonesty. But again, I went into the club. All the players have had about, I think, 5 months off from football at that time, whereas I had trained from April all the way through to July. I think we finished with Wigan on a Wednesday, and on the Monday I was going down to Peterborough to basically start pre-season again. And what I had done to myself was give myself hernias, which I found out about a month into being at Peterborough that yes, that was going to be surgery requirements. So didn't have a great time. I put a lot of pressure on myself to perform, because I felt now is my actual first proper shot at playing league football. Gone in there, started great, pre-season went through almost keeping a clean sheet in nearly every game, and went into the first game, made a mistake. All of a sudden, confidence drops. You go into the next game thinking, don't do that again. Had a good game. Third game, conceded a goal again, which was questionable, even though I had a great game up until then. And all of a sudden, you find that the manager doesn't have trust in you. And then I think I sat on the bench for 42 out of the 44 games in that season. Frustrating. But then again, at the same time, I was 30-40% fit at the time. 2 hernias in my stomach, just trying to pull through every session, waiting for an opportunity to come, which didn't come. So again, a tough season, disappointing season. Had to end it with surgery on my hernias, but I just decided, look, it was no point in denying it any longer. I had a tough time. I made mistakes. Gonna have to own up to it, work hard, and see if in the summer I can get back in the good books. The season ended on a high with the promotion to the Championship, but then I think 3 days later I was in London having an operation on my hernias. So in that summer I just thought, look, get myself right, make sure I come back 100%, and just try and fight my way back in. Had some conversations with the manager at the time, and he said, look, we're in the Championship now. I think you're going to need to go out and play somewhere else, which I accepted. I said, look, it's fair enough. Went through the summer, had a few opportunities that didn't quite work out for one reason or another. Ended up staying at Peterborough in the summer. I was training basically every day with the academy boys and the academy goalkeeper coach. And then I think it was around December time, when all the boys were going home for their holidays, all the academy boys, I got pulled in and said, look, Maidenhead have come in and they're interested in taking you on loan. So I think this was a Saturday or a Friday night game, and Monday I was in Maidenhead training. So again, that was probably the first time that something has come up through me playing with the 23s team at Peterborough. Again, just trying to put everything right, get my confidence back, and that again was thanks to the goalkeeper coach there at the time, who just put in loads of work with me, getting me fit first of all, and then once I got fit, he just did a lot of work with me, getting me up to speed, and I've got a lot to thank to him again, because he put me in a position where I felt like I was performing again close to my best. Went to Maidenhead, straight away the first game got called off. So I think I went there on a Monday. We were meant to play on a Wednesday or Thursday, if I remember well. That got called off. So we had an extra week to prepare. And first game against Bournemouth ended up being a win and a clean sheet, which was the first, I think, for them in 10 games at the time. So at the bad time, that opportunity came up, and again, that was good for me, worked for the club, and again, my time at Maidenhead was brilliant.
When you were at Peterborough, I read, I'm sure you've seen it yourself, this article in 442 that is about yourself, about the whole culture of a fake number 2
yes.
in the Football League, and it's just to explain to the listeners and viewers. effectively the article said that what Football League clubs can do is if their first choice keeper gets injured, they can then go and loan a keeper from another club that could be above them, and as in the league structure, and bring them in, and sometimes that keeper could even end up being a better standard than the keeper who's out injured.
Yep.
But it then stunts the development of the number two. So that must be entirely frustrating as a goalkeeper.
Yeah, so the tough thing for me was all my Checker Trade Trophy games at Stoke didn't count towards my senior games because I was playing for an academy team at the time, even though it was a senior competition. So when I went to Peterborough, I played 4 games by that time I think it was called a Papa John's Trophy, but before it was a Checker Trade Trophy. So I played 4 games for Peterborough. And what they've done, which I didn't understand at the time, was when I played those 4 games, by the end I was playing quite well. And then we had the 5th game coming up against Tranmere Rovers, I think it was. And conveniently for them, the weekend before that Tuesday game, the game got called off. So the manager came to me and said, look, I just want some continuity and I want to concentrate on the league because we were close to winning / second place to get promoted. I'm going to go with the first choice. And of course I was pissed off and didn't understand what was going on. But later on I found out basically that was his way of not giving me my 5th game as a professional. Because once a player has 5 professional games, the emergency loan market becomes dead to them. Because once I have 5 games, I'm counted as a full senior pro. They cannot sign an emergency loan goalkeeper. So what they did was they played me for 4 games. They dropped me from the team for that cup game so that I wouldn't get my 5th appearance, so that the emergency loan market would still be open to them if it came to it, which at the time I didn't understand. But again, it goes back to the fact that my mistakes have made the manager lose his faith and his confidence in me. So he then made the decision of not playing me for that 5th game to keep his options open, which, look, personally, I didn't like at the time. I didn't understand it yet. I only worked it out later on what happened. It was tough. He did what was right for the club, what he felt was right for the club. Do I agree with it? No. But unfortunately, that rule's the rule. That's how it works. And they obviously knew what they were doing.
When you went to Maidenhead, you were there for such a short space of time, and then you won their Player of the Year, their Fans Player of the Year. Whenever a player signs for Glentoran that we either haven't heard of or from outside of the league, the first thing you do is you look them up on the internet, you search them on Twitter, and it is clear to see the Maidenhead fans were absolutely thrilled with you, and that must have been extremely satisfying at the end of that first season to pick up that award and just people basically telling you you're doing so well.
I'll be honest, for me, the biggest thing that season was finally being able to prove consistently that I can play men's football, which, again, coming off of the disappointment at Peterborough of being dropped, not being considered, it was almost like a relief because, as you've heard so far, I was at Stoke, had great times, but unfortunately ended with no trust in me. I went to Wigan, again, misfortune of the club going into administration, not being able to prove what I can do at first team level. Going to Peterborough, and again, I've made mistakes, so I'm not going to blame anyone at the club. I've made mistakes. They couldn't see what I was capable of because I've not proved it enough, not shown enough of it. So to then go to Maidenhead and finally have that breakthrough of consistently playing. I think I played, I want to say about 22 games in that from January to the end of the season, was brilliant. It finally gave me confidence. It started building me back up to where I was probably at Wigan about 2 years prior. It took a long time and it took a lot of soul searching, as one could say, because even people close to you and yourself start doubting whether this is going to happen, whether this is going to work, whether I'm good enough. The questions were there and they need answering by yourself. No one can answer it for you. You can only hear so many times how good you are, but if you're not proving it on the pitch, ultimately you're not going to believe it yourself. And that was massive for me to go there and get that first win and clean sheet, which I think, I don't want to say the wrong number, but I want to say in the 10 games before, I think they got 1 draw and conceded 20, 30 something goals. So I came in playing as Boreham Wood, who were, at the time, I think they were on their FA Cup run as well against Everton, and they were flying in the league. So it was being dropped in straight at the deep end with a team that I've trained, I think, 4 or 5 times with. And to come in, keep a clean sheet, get their first win in a long time, their first clean sheet in a long time, all of a sudden gave me a massive confidence boost. But then the fans also took to me straight away, which I can't thank them enough. They've been so supportive all the way through my time there. Even after, once I got injured, they've been sending me messages. And look, one could say that the fact that the fans player of the season voting was open to everyone, that apparently I've heard there was a lot of Hungarian people voting. So it might have been a bit skewed, but a lot of people said, look, you come in and changed our season, which for me is just, it's not an ego boost, because I feel like you can't have a big ego in football, but for my confidence, it was just what I needed to finally, have that self-belief and to be able to build on that. Because after so many years of just trying to build and getting knocked back, it was such a relief to have that breakthrough. 6 months playing well, keeping clean sheets, getting man of the matches, getting team of the weeks by the papers, people recognizing me. All of a sudden, I think 3 or 4 games in, my agent phoned me and said, look, people I've spoke to who never wanted to hear your name ever again, all of a sudden are calling me, saying, oh, I'm hearing he's doing well, what's he doing next summer? So all of a sudden opinions change. And it was quite funny to hear some people not want to hear my name ever, and then all of a sudden tracking back and trying to find out what's happening with my contract. So yeah, and then I got into that second season on that high, trying to build on it. Started the season well, got some good results, and then unfortunately contract situation was coming up, so me and the manager had talks about how to proceed. I was out of contract in the coming summer, and he's emphasized that he wants to know what my decision was going to be, because obviously he wants to start looking after the team. So around January time, he took me out of the team to have a look at the other goalkeeper, which I understood. Obviously I wanted to play, but no player is bigger than the club. As much as I wanted to carry on playing, I understood, but the frustration was there. And again, irony, football, life, I don't know what, but the night he puts me back in the team, I get absolutely clattered, done my MCL, and I think stupidly, looking back at it now, but I think understandably, I decided to stay on the pitch, because I had not played for a month at that time. I think he took me out right at the end of December, and this was the first week of February. So the whole of January, he took me out of the team, possibly partly to let me sit on the bench, not move in January. He didn't want to let go of me. But then at the same time, I wasn't playing, so frustration was building up. And in that game, I got taken out, and I thought, I'm back in the team, we're winning 1-0, I'll be fine. So I got a massive strap-in done, tried to get as much on it as possible, stabilise the knee. Played, I think it was 60 or 70 minutes on that knee, twisting and turning in pain, and quite possibly making it worse in that 60 minutes. Came off the pitch, ballooned up, thought hopefully it was just going to be an MCL, which is not the worst. Went to see a specialist 2 weeks later. He said, yes, knee's solid, everything's fine, MCL's torn, we'll have to have a look at it. Worst case scenario, operation is 3 months. This was in February, so I thought, oh, no problem. In the summer, my contract was up, but I knew I had a few clubs interested, so I thought, we'll see what happens in the summer. And then went back for a second consultation, and by then all the swelling had gone. I started moving the knee a little bit, and he went to check it again, and he went, oh, this is absolutely not stable at all. He said, your knee's flapping around, it's going to have to be reconstruction. So I've gone from the highs of playing well to being dropped to back in the team to causing my own downfall with staying on. Now the question will always be, had I come off, would it have just been an MCL, or had I already done enough damage for it to be an ACL repair? We'll never know. The surgeons seem to think that there was no way I'd done my ACL in the collision, because there was no way. But yeah, that's one of those things again where life's cruel, a bit of misfortune, and that was me on the sidelines for another 16, 18 months nearly.
And obviously you weren't going to leave Maidenhead to go to another National League clubs. There was clearly Football League clubs who were interested in you at the time, so you would have got your opportunity to go back to the Football League, and then you find yourself out of contract, facing a long stretch by the club. What happens in them instances? Because how do you go about making money? Is there a PFA set up to help you out, or what happens? Insurance or?
So there's insurance for footballers. So what we can do is you got a career-ending insurance, which is for any injury that means you cannot step foot on the pitch ever again. But you also have an insurance that covers you for injuries.
Right.
So that was one thing. The other thing was the club did offer me a contract.
Right.
All fairness to them, to keep me on, but I just felt it wasn't a viable option at the time. I was 26, not 27 just yet. Actually, 27 now, 25. So I was still 25. Hadn't turned 26, and I just felt, for me, I need to be a free agent to be able to see what's going to happen with my football career next year. Because as soon as I found out, I think this was the start of March when I found out this was an ACL MCL reconstruction, I knew 2023 was basically chalked off. I was hoping to get back into football in January this year, but I also knew being an ACL injury, recovering from it and trying to get into a team midway through a season was kind of impossible. So one thing was savings. The other thing was I ended up making the decision to go home to Hungary and have the operation done at home. Right. I spoke to a surgeon here, and I'll be completely honest, the fact that he couldn't diagnose an ACL injury after seeing an MRI and having to see me twice for it, I just didn't feel entirely comfortable with him. So I spoke to two surgeons back at home, ended up flying home myself, paid for that myself, seen both of them. And the second one was a surgeon in Budapest who had he had operated on Péter Gulácsi, the Hungarian goalkeeper, national team goalkeeper, who had also done his ACL, I think in October, so a couple months before me. And he explained to me what he did, how he did it, the technique he was using that was quite a few years ahead of what was being done in the UK and anywhere in Europe. I think he was one of two surgeons in the whole of Europe that's using that technique. And to me, I just felt like that was the right way to do it. To be fair to Maidenhead, they paid for the operation. I think there was enough trust there that I produced a receipt to the gaffer, and him and the CEO have ended up paying me back. So, all credit to them for that. And then from then on out, it was just, once again, I'm going to say, without my parents, I don't think I'd still be playing football. I ended up moving home, got rid of the flat that I lived in. I sold the car that I had, moved all my stuff back to Hungary, and ended up basically moving home at 26, which was, as you can imagine, was a bit of a culture shock, as well as a bit of a ego check to say, look, you can be taken away like that. All that was just a year of hard work, living off of my savings. My parents helped me, again, thanks to them. Without them, it wouldn't be possible. Sitting at home every morning. My mum went to school to teach. My dad was away working, and I was just going to rehab every single day, straight to the gym, doing my own program, twice a week, seeing a physio, testing, checking everything, make sure everything's right, finding new exercises to do, trying to find a goalkeeper coach who will work with me privately, getting me fit again. So yeah, it was just a long 16 months, like I said, but I think in the end, the short-term losses make up for the long-term game. I don't think I'd be at Glentoran now if I chose to sign for Maidenhead again and done my rehab that way. So again, life works in funny ways, but I think everything happens for a reason. That's what I tend to believe. And it made me tougher. It made me realize how cautious you have to be with everything you do. At the same time, how precious it is what I do. It can be taken away in the moment. So yeah, it was a tough time, but I'm stronger for it, and I'm here to, you know, put that behind me and go again.
Just looking at the National League, we talked about it off air before we came on, and I admittedly got completely sucked into the National League just at the time you joined it, and that's because of the Wrexham documentary. The TV show, I think it's brilliant, and obviously what's going on there is ridiculous. You know, the amount of money that's been spent, the amount of money their players are on, the stadium redevelopments. What was that like, being in the league then with so much focus on it at the time?
It was crazy. I think it just blew up as I went, just like you said. It was it was crazy to see how we could go from Maidenhead and Wealdstone, who were the two part-time clubs in the league. I think Wealdstone trained 3 times a week. We trained 3 times a week. Everyone else is full-time, like a professional club. But we had York Road, the oldest stadium in the world, that still plays football to this day. And then you'd go to Wrexham, who has a 10,000 seater stadium, almost like a newer style, big arena. Players are on ridiculous amount of wages. I think 1 or 2 of their players combined covered our whole budget. So it's so out of whack how one club can be so much more professional, have so much money than us. And there was only 10 places between us, or 12 places between us at times. So it's every weekend was a different challenge, because you could go to Maidstone, who had an Astro pitch. Then we would go to Chesterfield, who had the best best Deso hybrid pitch in the league. And we would play against quality players to then go and play, go and play against Halifax, who are a really physical side, who are more of a traditional National League side. So every weekend it was like going from a League 1 club to a League 2 club to a National League club back to a League 2 level club, and it was ridiculous. And I don't see a reason why the National League can't be a League 3, which people call it nowadays, because everyone's professional, everyone's full-time, the money's there, facilities are there now, and it almost is just an extension of the Football League.
And how do you notice the standard from National League to Irish League? Would you say it's fairly similar?
I would say it's fairly similar. You still have your very footballing dominant sides, but then you also have your very physical dominant sides. So it's quite similar in that sense, that you get a bit of a mixture. You will get Cliftonville who play. You will get like a Dungannon who will try and go long and try and play through us. So again, having a similar look at the National League, you would have Chesterfield, who had Paul Cook as manager, who I knew at the time. They had league players playing in most positions, to having us, who I think at some point in the league I want to say I was the 3rd best playmaker in the league, because I had the final third entries with the ball, because all I was doing was getting the ball and hitting my target man 70-80 yards down the pitch. So there was a massive spread in styles, and we had Notts County come to York Road. We just dried out the pitch, left it long. They tried to play out the back, and we just kept breaking on the counter, because the ball would break down, it'd get sticky, we'd steal it off them, and we had chances. So you still get the dark arts of trying to mess with other clubs and just do anything to suit your style of play.
There's a lot of travelling involved, obviously, in the National League as well, in comparison to Northern Ireland. Massive.
I think, I want to say, Torquay away, even from Maidenhead, was a 4.5-5 hour journey. We did it on a Tuesday night. And then I lived in Peterborough still, so I did the journey there and back. So I drove down from Peterborough to Maidenhead, jumped on the coach, did 5 hours back after the game. At like 3 a.m, I jumped in my own car and drove home. So yeah, there was a lot of travelling. We had Gateshead up the other way, again, another 5 hour trip. filed in the league who are way above Manchester. Again, another 4 or 5 hour trip. So, yeah, a lot more travelling involved in finding out that our furthest away trip is probably about an hour and a bit. Is actually quite nice.
So then you get over the injury, your leg's obviously back to how you wanted to be.
Yeah.
And the reason that we're here today, you signed for Glentoran. So how does that move come about? Because you've probably never heard of Glentoran before you signed for us.
Funny enough, one of my agent's old players played at Glentoran, so I knew about the club quite a long time ago, actually. I think it was 2017-18 when he mentioned that they are calling another goalkeeper.
Yeah. Gibraltar International.
Yeah. So he signed for the club and he said, look, it's a massive club. At the time, he was saying something like that would be great for you as well to go and play. And so I knew about the club. I followed his results, kept track of what was going on. And again, faith, or whatever you want to call it, life, works in mysterious ways. It was actually Michael Doherty, another Glentoran goalkeeper, who my agent is good friends with. And my agent just said to him, look, do you know of any clubs that need goalkeepers? Here's Dan, he's fit, he's back, he needs a club, and he's looking to come back and play. He's 27, these are the attributes. And Michael Doherty knew of me before, because when I was at Wigan, there was conversations about me coming over on loan somewhere here to play. So he knew about me, knew what I was like, knew my stature, knew what I was good at. And he worked with Declan before, so he said, look, I am pretty certain Glentoran will be looking for goalkeepers in the summer. I'll speak to Declan, see if he's interested, send some videos over, send some of his highlights from Maidenhead and Wigan over, and we'll have a look at it. And sent all that over, and thanks to Michael, a great, Declan said he's given me a really good recommendation. I came down, trained with Elliot once so he could have a look at me personally, and just said, look, we see that you're fit, we see that you're sharp. Obviously after an injury, people want to have a look and see how you're moving. With an ACL, it's quite telling when someone isn't able to move as freely as usual. So he said, look, you're moving freely. Declan, obviously having been an ex-goalkeeper, he knows what to look for in a goalkeeper. He knows the little telltale signs if someone's fit, not fit, what they're like. And he said, look, we can see you're fit. We've seen the footage. We know of your pedigree from Maidenhead and from Peterborough. We think you'd be a good fit for us, and we'd really like to have you. So, to be honest with you, my agent mentioned that side of it, saying, look, life, how it works. We've had a goalkeeper here before, and now you're coming here. It was a great opportunity for me. I was excited to be part of a big club, and the two just worked at the time. They needed a keeper, I needed a club, and I feel like it's a great marriage. How
have you settled in? The Glentoran, it's a new country, loads of new faces, it's a brand new squad, and even a new manager.
Yeah, I'm kind of used to moving around after Stoke, having been there for 6-7 years, to then go a year at Wigan, year and a half at Peterborough, a year and a half / 2 years at Maidenhead. I'm kind of, you get an understanding of how to carry yourself around the new building. You don't want to carry unwanted attention. You come in, you try and get to know everyone, try and understand what everyone's about, try and see how you can get to people. If someone needs tough love, if someone needs an arm around their shoulder. I've just heard the stories of last season and the seasons before of people's minds not being in the right place and their hearts not being in the right place. And that's what Declan emphasised to me as well as everyone else, that first of all, the heart and the pride needs to be in us wearing the shirt. I think everyone's on the same page regarding that. And for me, Northern Ireland, it's a different country, but it just feels like an extension of England to me, at least. Some people might not like me saying that, but just from it's gonna sound stupid, but just the feel of the houses, the streets, the roads, everything else just feels like an extension of England. So in those terms, it's quite familiar. So anytime I move to a new city, it's interesting finding out, the areas who lives where, what kind of fans live in what area of the city. So I've already been educated on don't go north, don't go west, stay in East Belfast. So yeah, I've had certainly Marcus giving me the handbook of what to do, what not to do, where to go and where not to go in Belfast. But what they've emphasised is, look, this is a great club, it's a big club, and we need to get it back to where it belongs. And to me, that's exciting for one. Obviously, it's a lot of responsibility, but I think everyone, me included, we're really excited about the opportunity of being here and playing our part, hopefully, in a rise.
And you're working with Elliot Morris, and Elliot is a bona fide Glentoran legend. He's been at the club for 25 years. I'm pretty sure he's the second highest appearance holder. He a great guy, and he was an absolutely fantastic goalkeeper. And that's maybe a bit of a poison chalice, because Glentoran have really tried to replace him, and fans are thinking, they compare every keeper then to Elliot, and it's like, you're not always going to get an Elliot Morris. But what's he been like to work with as a coach?
He's been brilliant. He's been, obviously, the main part of me coming here was Michael, Elliot and Declan. He was one of the three, and to work with him every day, it's great because he understands the club. He's been there, done it at the club, so he can pass on all those experiences. He can pass on a lot of information regarding the league, the club, what to look out for, what players to look out for. His experience, I think, even just him as a person, he holds himself as I think he's a great person, great coach, and it's a really good environment we got with the goalkeepers, with Andy, with Lorcan. He's out on loan, so we see a bit less of him. The young lads coming through the academy and him, it's a good group to work with, and he pushes us every day to be better. And could be a clean sheet, could be a 2-0 loss to Larne, it could be a 2-1 win to Portadown. We'll always look through, find bits to improve on and to work on through the week to prepare for the next game. So it's been brilliant. That's all I can say. It's been brilliant because, yes, he is a legend, and he is an appearance record holder, and it's almost tough to be in someone's shadow. But then I think it's not about living up to him. It's about trying to show people that, I am someone different. I might have different skills. I might do things differently. But as long as I'm performing and keeping those clean sheets, I think I might not be another Elliot Morris. I might be my own player. But hopefully our fans will also think fondly of me.
And has Elliot talked much about his goal?
I have heard, we've seen it on the screen a few times. Yeah. He actually kept it quiet for a while, and then I think Moko sat next to me at lunch one day, and he goes, "Has Elliot told you about his goal yet?" And I went, "No, he actually hasn't." I was like, "Elliot, you haven't told me about your goal yet." He goes, Yeah, I know. So he tried keeping it quiet, but the boys showed me.
Yeah, we'll not talk about his own goal he scored as well.
I've not heard about that one.
It came up as a Facebook memory the other day, the anniversary of it on my Facebook. You're not sorry, Elliot. You'll not want to talk about that one. So you're in this new changing room with all the new management, and I have to say I've been down at the Oval, and I'm not just saying this, but when I've came in you've been having lunch or you've been training, or it just seems like a really good group that everyone gets along really well, good camaraderie, which is one of Tim McCann's favourite words, and it's just it's just a really solid group, which I think is the good foundation to be a successful team.
Absolutely, and I think people don't realise how important that is. You hear about the training work, you hear about the running, you hear about going out on the pitch and showing what you've got, but if you're in a change room that's toxic and people don't get on and people are upset or are not close to each other, I think that shows on the pitch. Sooner than later you will see it on the pitch, it will spill out onto the pitch. So I think to have that togetherness, which is, again, Tim's word, camaraderie, is massive. I've seen big teams with bad changing rooms and big players not pull their weights, whereas I'd seen smaller teams with a really good changing room perform better because of it, because people work hard for each other, as well as the player on their right, the player on their left, the player in front, or the player in behind. And one of the things we want to do is, if someone makes a mistake in front of you, you're the next line of defense, try and help them out. If they make a mistake, I'm still there to hopefully try and help them out. And I think having that close-knit group, it just, even to the tough times when you're not winning, when you're losing, when you go a goal down, when you go 2 goals down, having a good group of boys who can pull each other forward instead of further pushing each other down is really, really important. And I think that's what we got. We just got to show more of it. The results have not been great of late, but I think we've started very well in terms of getting results, getting clean sheets, showing that we can do it. We just need to be more consistent doing it now.
Friday night was probably a proper introduction to yourself.
Yep.
Because you had, to be fair, the first half you probably didn't have much to do.
No.
And then the second half there was a few saves you had to make and you made them well. Is that frustrating as a goalkeeper when you have such a good game but the team comes out on the losing side?
That's probably nothing worse than having a quote-unquote good game as a goalkeeper but losing, because it will never feel like a good game unless we won. So I could have made 10 saves and we lost 2-0. I'd still be disappointed that we lost 2-0 and we lost. So for me, it's, yes, it was a positive that I made those saves, but I'd like to make those saves when we're 0-0 and maybe we're getting a draw. It would feel much better than making it a 2-0 when we are still losing the game. Of course, those chances come around because we're trying to push for an equaliser or a goal back, sorry. So to a certain extent, if it's 0-0, those chances might not ever come around. So again, you have to weigh up, were they good saves, or did I have to make those saves because we're down and we're having to chase the game? So I'm usually quite self-critical. So you always look back on goals that you concede and think, oh, what else could I have done? Maybe if I do something different for the second goal, I might get a toe to it or a finger to it and be able to tip it around the post, and then it's 1-0 and then we're pushing for an equaliser, not just to get a goal back. So yes, it's been positive. I've had some good games, made some good saves, but I want it to show on the results as well.
I think fans can get quite frustrated because, and I do feel like maybe this team is bearing the brunt of last season and that team. I think it's just spilled over into this season. But when I look at it, we haven't been winning the game and been completely outplayed by anyone. We've been extremely competitive, and it has been individual errors that have really cost us. But I just think that if you eliminate them, once the team properly clicks, that we already are hard to beat. So it's just about then getting up the other end and turning those hard to beat into victories.
I think so. I think if you look at this is our 9th game, and this is the first time we lost by more than a goal.
Yeah.
All of our games have been 0-0s, 1-0s, either way, apart from Portadown where we won 2-1. So we are a hard to beat team, and I think if you eliminate those little mistakes, or I think they're more lack of concentration, where for a second we switch off, whether it's our own throw-in or whether it's a long ball over the top, it's just communication and just taking charge of the situation. And I think once we do that, we'll start getting the results for it. And it's just, at the moment, I think it's just disappointment. When we go a goal down, you see it, people are disappointed, and we just need to pick ourselves up and go again. Because, listen, every team goes behind once in a while. It's how you react to it that's the most important. So that will get the fans on board again, because as much as you don't want to concede, you will concede. There will be games where you concede, and I think the fans know that you can concede. It's how you concede and how you react to it to then show everyone that, look, we still want to win the game, we want to get back into it, and there's a good reaction and there's a bad reaction, and I think we need to be good reacting to going behind, because it will happen again.
This goes out after the Glenavon game, so actually the next game is Linfield when this goes out.
Okay.
The Big 2 fixture. Have you heard much about it?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I've heard that the atmosphere is going to be amazing, as always, with our fans. I've heard that the stadium's nice. But ultimately, it is a game we need to win. We need to go there and be hard to beat. Make sure our performance is up to standard. There's not going to be any problem with the boys running around and fighting, because that is always there, I think. And I hope that we can show the fans that we've got the quality in us, not just the hard work and being hard to beat, but also we can show some positive attacking football and score some goals.
On what day was it? It must have been last week at some stage. There was something that happened, and it was, I'm going to call it Fudzer's Wheel of Misfortune. You can talk me through this. You were very animated. For anyone who hasn't seen it, there was this wheel, and on the wheel there was a list of, it looked like punishments.
Yeah, so actually it was Johnny Russell's birthday. I think
Johnny Russell, sorry.
I think this was where are we? So that was Thursday. So last Thursday before the Lawn game. So what happens is we got our own fines list. Being late, leaving stuff in the gym, leaving your cutlery out after food, forgetting to do something, forgetting to turn up on time, not turning up for your appointment with the physio. A lot of fines, £5, £10, £20, £30. Match day fines are doubled. Being late on a match day is quite a lot of money. So what happens is that we've got a wheel of fortune, which is misfortunes for us, and it's got I think it's got 12 sections. So it's usually a £5 spin. So the minimum is £5. But let's say I've got a £12 fine, I can spin the whole £12. Or I can just say, look, I want to keep the £7 separate. Some people have had £30, £40. Last week was a tough week for crashes, and because of road closures, people didn't make it on time. So there was a lot of fines.
Right.
And some people had 20, 30, 40 pounds of fines. So if you want to, you can spin the whole 40 pounds. Bear in mind that there is 1.5 times fine, 2 times fine, triple fine. There is a squad number generator. So what happens is, if that lands, the person who's had the fine has it taken off of them. We go and get Siri on our phone and say, Siri, give us a number between 1 and 48. So everyone's got a number assigned to them. So my squad number is 1, so I'm 1. Millsy and the Mills is 25, so he's 25. Singy is 27. We got, I think Finley is 77, but we just assigned 48 to him because he's the biggest number. So we just moved him down. And whatever Siri comes up with, we just tell Siri to pick a random number. And so what happened was, I think it was Cody had a £30 spin. He spun the whole thing and went to squad number generator. We asked Siri and ended up landing on James Singleton. He got 27. So he actually spun his fine, managed to get away with all of his fines. So he thought he was done for the day. He was buzzing. 5 minutes later, he got past Cody's £30 onto him. And then Finley, I think Finn had a £42. I think it was £42 added up. So we left him last to have the biggest number at the end. So he span and he got pass it on to a mate. So what happens is you have to literally pick a person and give him your fine. But because he's quite new, he didn't really want to pick fights with anyone just yet. So actually it was Moko who said, look, no problem, I'm the captain. We'll give you squad number generator instead, so it's not you picking the person. We ended up going to squad number generator and ended up picking number 3. So Moko ended up getting the £42 off Finn. So yeah, so it is fun, but it is also about keeping people accountable with reporting on time, make sure we do everything we need to do, not leaving gear hanging around, make sure stuff's in the right place for Jeff to wash, making sure the GPSs go back to where they need to go. It's just keeping people accountable, keeping things tidy, keeping things proper, if that makes sense. So yes, it is fun when we spin the wheel, but sometimes when the numbers get added on into the group chat saying this is what you're, people don't like it. And then also we got £10 a man, £5 a man, so someone can go spin their own £5, land on £5 a man, and all of a sudden then the whole team have to pay £5 each into the kitty. So yeah, that's why you can hear a lot of shouting and laughing and jokes going around, because it's tense, people are nervous, they don't want to pay someone else's fine, but then they also want to try and get rid of your own fine. So yeah, it's a balance of how much you want to risk and how much you're willing to pay yourself.
And where did it go? Is it for Christmas or?
Well, it's going to go into a pot, and then whether we get a Christmas do, whether we go for a meal or whatever it goes towards, we'll just collect the money and then it will go to a good cause.
Brilliant. Just finally then, to wrap it up, ambitions for the future, because you're clearly extremely ambitious. You've played in England. You said it's a pinch myself moment that you played there. You're on a 1-year deal at the Oval. Is the ambition to have a really good season with the Glens and then look at your options?
It is always the case, because it's nowadays you don't get 4 or 5 year contracts unless you play at Chelsea. So every year you prove yourself to your own club, but then meanwhile some other clubs might look at you and think, yeah, you know what, he's done well, we want a bit of that. So of course the club wanted to make sure that if I do get injured again, the club are protected and I'm not on a 2-3 year deal on massive money. But at the same time, there is clauses in there that if I do well and if I play games and I'm steady, then there is possibility for future of me staying here. So it's just a constant conversation with the club, saying, look, how do you feel? What do you think? How do you think I'm doing? What is there I can do more of? Are you happy with me? If you're happy with me, then let's have a look at maybe longer. If not, then it is just a case of playing as well as I can. And if the club thinks they want to keep hold of me, then I'll be happy. If not, then obviously I'll have to have a look at my options, whether it's England. I'm foreign, so I'm not shy going to Europe. I'm not shy going to Italy, Germany, Spain, Austria, wherever it may be. For me, it's always been about the football. I want to earn my money by playing good football and not just go and sign a big contract somewhere and just, be sitting on my laurels, as some people say. I want to play. I want something to play for. I feel like Glentoran is a club where, we can be trying to compete for silverware, for European places, for the cup. And I think that is our ambition this year, is to come away with something in our hands, not come away empty-handed. And in that process, what happens with me is, it's football. Like you've seen it with my other clubs. Sometimes it's out of your hands. Sometimes you make your own luck. Sometimes you're your own misfortune. So I just want to continue, build on my performances, and hopefully the club will look at me and think we want more of him in the future.
Dan, it's been absolutely brilliant talking to you. Thanks very much for coming on the Shout Out the Oval podcast.
No, it's been brilliant. Thank you very much.
I'm looking forward to seeing what you can do the rest of the season. So far, so good. And thanks for coming on.
No, thank you. Hopefully, it'll be a very positive end of year review.
Thank you very much once again for joining us on the Shout Out the Oval podcast. Brilliant to have a player on once more, and we'll be back again soon with another guest.